Welcome to the Meatball Composer podcast. I am your host, Mr. Meatball, or Composer Chris, or just Chris, or Professor Teichler, or Dr. Teichler, whatever, or just Bears fan Chris, whatever. Meatball Chris, a bunch of different things you can call me. So, what we got going on for the day is Mark, my archaeology friend, Dr. Mark, will be on to talk Bears and where they are after a quarter of the way through the season with a 3-1 record. Now, I didn't expect that. To Mark's credit, he told me that over the summer that he wouldn't be surprised if they'd be 3-1 after the first 4 games. So kudos to him, and looking forward to hearing his thoughts on the Bears. And we'll see what else goes from there, but this show is going to be Bears-centric, Bears-heavy. So if you're not a Bears fan, what's wrong with you? But also, there'll be less to keep you riveted to this show. Although I do want to ask Mark a little bit about Drew Brees after he just passed Brett Favre and Peyton Manning's passing yardage records. I want to get his take on where Drew Brees should be in the pantheon of NFL quarterback elites. So we'll get into that. Since the Cubs are out of the playoffs, I really have not gotten any energy to care about baseball. Normally I do, but the way they collapsed at the end, it's been hard to get the motivation to watch baseball. Anyway, thanks again for listening, for checking in, and let's do this. It's been a couple weeks since I've had my buddy Dr. Mark Jansen to talk Bears on the show, and actually we tried to record a couple, and they both failed miserably. I tried to record directly onto the cloud of the server that I use, and both let me down. So I'm going the old-fashioned way this time, recording right onto the device, as my grandpappy would have when he podcasted.
Is this like the equivalent of Bear Weather, like
yes.
Podcast style? Just
yes.
Smash Mouth podcast.
That's right. So, Mark, hey, the Bears are 3-1.
That's right. You know, what the dear listener missed last time was concerns about Mitch, but trying to be balanced. Now we can just go right to Mitch Euphoria, put him in the Hall of Fame, and be done with it.
Canton bound.
Yep.
So he had 6 touchdowns against Tampa. And
that was fun.
He looked great. He looked fantastic. Now, the question is, was that partly due to how bad Tampa's defense is? Or, that's what a lot of...
I know we're hearing that a lot, and they definitely stink compared to most secondaries. But the front seven's still pretty good. I think it's more because the line kept the pocket pretty clean. Mm-hmm. I was thrilled with that game. I had said that I wanted to see him break out at some point. Just show us that, hey, we know there's going to be bumps in the road. I'm not expecting a finished product, but it was nice to get a game where, like, okay, he definitely can in fact do it. So it was nice for him to give us that. But I don't, I know that the Tampa secondary was weak and injured and a bunch of young guys in there that hadn't played much, but you still put up 48 points.
Yep.
I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like, he threw for 250 with 2 TDs and no interceptions. You'd say that's a nice little game, and you'd say, yeah, but Tampa's bad. But 6 touchdowns, could have probably had more. As efficient and as good as the throws were, some of them were still big boy NFL throws that I don't buy that you can just dismiss the whole thing because of Tampa, though they're a factor. But I think Mitch would have had a good game against just about anybody as accurate as he was that day. The questions remain really just a couple things. Can he do it when he's under more pressure? That's the most important one. I think this game helped dispel at least some of my concerns about his ability to read the field. Mm-hmm. But I still think we might, what about when he's playing a more exotic scheme? And then, most importantly, at the end of the day, can he do it consistently?
Now, did you hear that Nagy had scaled back the offense a little bit?
It was hard to kind of evaluate that as I was watching the game because they were doing so many wonderfully creative things with Cohen and Gabriel. And then they had the play where Daniel was in on the goal line. They did a little pitch to Gabriel. Yeah. Like, it didn't really look that scaled back.
What'd they call that? They said
I can't remember what they called it.
It's some goofy name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I did enjoy Mitch talking about Daniel being a threat with his speed.
Yeah. Oh, Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka,
That's what
that
they
was
called
the
it,
name.
yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, I'm sure he scaled it back to some degree in terms of talking to Mitch about what he's comfortable with. But that doesn't make it, like, super simple Dowell login scaled back. I think we kind of have to, like, be careful when we hear scaled back that we don't interpret that to just mean dumbed down.
Well, that's the thing. It still looked, there was a lot of creative stuff going on. And I heard after the fact that, they scaled back the offense a little bit. And I thought, okay, great.
It worked.
Do that again then.
So you take a 600 playbook and make it 200 and then use 80 game day? Still seems like plenty. I don't know enough about the inner workings of that. But it'll be interesting to see how that looks moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did have concerns about Mitch's processing speed. And it didn't look like he was struggling to go through the reads like he had been. And it's hard to say whether that's Tampa's not covering anyone or Nagy's really drawn up a perfect scheme. But either way, the throws were on point.
Yeah.
So I think he demonstrated NFL-level talent with his arm at least, because you still got to make the throw.
Yeah.
We'll see where the rest of it comes with better opponents.
It was very impressive. And, the excuse of, it was Tampa, they're a bad defense. Well, that's what you're supposed to do to a bad defense.
Yeah, that's what I mean by
you're supposed to drop
points.
six touchdowns on them like that, yeah.
I mean, it's at some point, I don't know that anyone really, in the media has done this to a degree that I'm annoyed, other than maybe Bernsey the first couple games. But you can't have it both ways. If you're demanding that he show you more, and then he shows you more, and it happens to be against a banged-up defense, what would you like him to do?
Right.
Get those players healthy and then play them again? I mean, at some point, it's just absurd. He showed a lot of NFL-level talent. Let's build on it. If he doesn't build on it, we'll be back to questioning it. But now the conversation moves from, oh my gosh, he looks terrible. Is he a bust, or is it just too early to panic, to, no, there was that Tampa game.
Yep.
And now it'll be a consistency as far as the main issue goes.
Yep. And I tried to warn people on my Facebook and Twitter, my Bears fan friends, that, he's going to have ups and downs this year. He's going to have a bad game again or two. And we can't flip back to, oh my gosh, is he a bust again? Oh, this whole year is a process. Pardon the Mark Trestmanism. But, it's just a fact. He's still learning the game. There's still going to be ups and downs. Against Tampa, it was a very big up. Yeah,
if he continues to hit receivers when they're open, he'll be fine. He'll look good because we are getting guys open. That's what's kind of getting lost, I think, in the Trubisky discussion is, oh, well, it's not really him. It's just the scheme's getting guys open. And I'm thinking, oh, how terrible for the Bears that the scheme gets people open. But when Mitch overthrows them by 5 yards, like the Gabriel play a few weeks back, then it's frustrating. But when he hits it when they're open, it doesn't really matter what it says about him. If they can keep getting guys open and he keeps hitting them, how's that going to be a problem?
Yeah. I think it was that first touchdown where, was that to Gabriel down the near sideline? Was it Gabriel?
No, that was Burton.
That was Burton, excuse me. Okay,
Burton.
Burton.
A little slide thing.
Yeah, it looked like, he was just wide open. But then on one of the replays, you could see that the defender fell down. And the point where Mitch threw the ball, he was not that
Yeah, the all 22 that scouts and teams actually use with the wide view and the views behind the play too, show that when Mitch throws the ball, it's an anticipatory throw.
Yeah.
He's not actually open, and it just works out even easier than that. That's the kind of thing we need to see.
Exactly.
Because that means he's getting it.
That's what was encouraging to me when I saw that replay and the fact that, he was not wide open when he threw that ball. He just happened to throw it in the perfect spot, and the defender fell down, so it looked more open than that. But it was a great throw.
He did a couple other things that, again, are NFL-level things to do that deserve some credit that don't have anything to do with the fact that he's just playing the Bucs. He had did a nice job looking one way at the start of a play to bait a safety on a couple throws. And then the little fake to Cohen in the flat where it's a pump fake.
Yes.
And then Gabriel's running free. He sold that really well. And that shows someone who feels more comfortable. I think these are positive steps on smaller scales, but hopefully reflect a bigger picture comfort. But, let's see what he looks like week 8, week 10.
Yeah.
And I would be thrilled if he could just throw together 2 or 3 performances where it's, 250-plus yards, a couple touchdowns, maybe a 90-ish QB rating. He's going to have some turnovers. I mean, we can't expect 6 TDs every game.
Oh, no.
Because we're not the Chiefs, apparently. But,
Although
he finally had a bad game. I don't care what anyone says.
Mahomes has slowed down,
300
too.
yards, no TDs, and 2 picks is definitely not the best game.
Yep.
So I just think if Trubisky can build on this, we'll be really in the clear. And, I don't know if you saw it, but all these, like, projections online and power rankings are giving the Bears a lot of love this week. Like, odds to win the North, 3rd seed in the NFC type of love.
Well, Green Bay keeps kicking themselves, no pun intended.
It's fun to watch that.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Crosby, but it's fun to watch Aaron Rodgers take shots at Mike McCarthy and then try to say he didn't. And then just knowing that they're the dysfunctional team so far this year is just good for my soul.
Well, for how many years has Rodgers covered up the fact that
I might
McCarthy's
be a wee bit bitter.
coach?
Oh, well, a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. How about the little bit on the defense? You got anything you want to say about
nah.
good old 52?
He's as advertised, just keeps impacting games pretty much every drive. It's just exciting because, at any point you could get that Khalil Mack moment. And we're a month in, and we've had several of those moments. Everybody's talking about, him as the defensive player of the year. A lot of people are talking about him as the first legitimate MVP candidate on defense in some time. Although Watt really was one a couple years back. And he probably can't get it, but maybe the trade and the spotlight on him, if he keeps it up, there'd be an outside chance if the QBs don't have obvious dominant stats. But you see him get to the QB and chase the ball. And I remember reading the Ringer article on that, and that is what he does. Yep. And so even the penalty stuff doesn't really impact him much.
He has a sack and a forced fumble in every game. I mean,
and he
come on.
I've always thought that we do interceptions wrong. Like, it always bothered me when I was trying to defend Cutler back in my formative years. And there would be like a tip, or it would hit the receiver's hands, and it's just flat out an interception on the QB. On the defense, when a guy impacts the QB's timing or tips the ball and just the corner gets the pick, right? I think we need to have half interceptions, and Khalil Mack deserves another half interception with Trevathan.
Yep.
We do it for sacks. I mean, that's not an intercepted pass if he doesn't hit his arm right as he's throwing it.
And that looked like a punt, too.
So I think of it in a sense. Yeah, it did. I kind of think of it like...
called fair catch.
Yeah, for real. So I kind of think of it like he sort of has 2 interceptions. And I'm just trying to, in terms of his overall impact, it's yet another turnover he's caused.
Yeah. And he's making the whole defense better. Yep. I mean, they were a top 10, or maybe right at the edge of 10.
Somewhere maybe 8 to 12 or something.
Yeah, but he's...
They wouldn't be at the top 10 without him this year because of Floyd's issues so far. Like, there's no way they would have enough pass rush without him.
Yeah.
But I think he'll come around. I'm not worried about him. But Mack has changed the culture. He's changed... I mean, you hear Fangio talking about how he's not a prima donna, and they're talking about, like, the drills they run where they all sprint out to the ball on the ground, and they don't just, like, jog, but they're sprinting, and that he just sort of leads by example. It's all kind of too good to be true right now.
When he bull rushes, you cannot stop him.
It's amazing to watch him.
It's like a bulldozer.
When he split the triple team.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean,
and the net effect of that is something I said way back in September when we first picked him up. It was a couple people just in phone calls. He's going to make life so much easier for the guys around him, which everybody knows, but now we're actually seeing it, right? It sounds like a cliche. We're like, oh, that guy draws so much attention. Or like when a receiver dictates coverage and then other guys are open. But it's true. It's the consummate team game, but if you don't have that individual impact player, it doesn't open up for other players, and we're seeing Akeem Hicks feast.
Yep.
One-on-one matchups.
But Mack is doing that, but still...
And still producing.
And still, yeah, like, look at someone like back in the day, Dan Hampton, my friend.
Yep.
Dan Hampton absorbed all the double teams and all the, he made Richard Dent. He made Mike Singletary, to an extent, yeah.
But Hampton was the best player on that team. He
Yes.
gets not near as much credit as he should.
Totally agree. But Mack's doing that same thing, but still getting to the quarterback and still forcing turnovers. It's unbelievable.
The 06 Super Bowl team had Tommy Harris doing that.
Right.
Slightly different position, but that guy that you can't leave one-on-one that opens things up for inferior pass rushers. But for that injury, who knows where his career goes. He was an excellent defensive tackle. And I think Mack's impact so far has been greater even than like Urlacher or someone some of our other greats that have been around in my lifetime, as good as those players were, because the pass rush is just so all important now.
Yep. By the way, the Bears win that 06 Super Bowl
if he's
Tommy
healthy.
Harris
I think so too. They managed to keep it close.
And Mike Brown.
But, we got used to him being hurt. But that was the first taste that Harris was going to be hurt all the time. Other than he was only available because he had injury concerns coming into the draft. Right. That. Let's get back to happier times.
Bears. Sorry. Yes. So big picture now. NFC North. NFC. I mean, I think you got to say that the Rams are the best team in the conference.
I think you have to pick the Rams and Saints as better than the Bears still at the moment. And, the Saints had the whole moment with Drew Brees, who's, I think belongs in the top 10, certainly, maybe even top 5. Depends on how you frame the discussion.
I had
for
no
QBs because he's only got the one ring, but Manning's got 2, but he really didn't do anything for the second ring.
No, he didn't.
Right? Like, I think you could make a pretty compelling case to put Brees even in the top couple, especially if he wins one more ring. But so the Saints are good, and they're always going to be tough if they have a pass rush with all the offense they have. Mm-hmm. But the Rams, they're starting to see few chinks in the armor because half the defense is hurt.
That's true.
That could be interesting as time moves forward.
What about Philly, the defending champs? Are they?
I think they're going to round into form as Wentz rounds into form, probably.
Okay, yeah.
But I think that as sloppy as they've played, you would maybe call that a coin flip if they played the Bears. As they're playing right now, I'd take the Bears. Coin flip later. Of course, if you get the playoff run Eagles, they're better.
Right.
But that doesn't look like the same team at the moment.
It does not. And
neither do the Vikings.
2-2? 3-2, the Eagles?
2-3.
Oh, 2-3.
Tampa beat them. Those awful Bucks.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
well,
it's wide open after the Rams and the Saints, and it may be even more wide open than that based on injuries to the Rams.
Minnesota?
Still scary, but their defense has had so many bad games that I don't know who they are anymore right now.
Yeah, is that who they are, or is it just they haven't really gelled yet?
Yeah, you just kind of wonder what the deal there is because they've been together for so long, too.
Yeah, and their defense the last couple of years has been really solid.
I still think the Bears split those 2 games.
I would be totally okay with that.
Which I'd be fine with. And I think the Bears' schedule sets up right now, barring disastrous injury, obviously, to get to 10 or 11 wins.
Can they beat Green Bay at home?
Absolutely.
If
they would just get over the mystique of Green Bay. They had beat Green Bay, be in Green Bay. Now they're out for revenge. By the time that game gets there, hopefully the Bears have a nice, juicy record and are confident enough not to be, just completely mentally destroyed by Rodgers, or however you want to put it. That's what that game felt like. Like, he's like, I'm back, you're screwed. And they're like, oh, you're right.
Right. Yeah, they need to beat the Packers as like a mental hurdle, I think, more than anything else.
I don't think it's that maybe because it's the Packers, but I think just to get the monkey off the back against an elite QB for this defense, and they don't really play that many elite QBs.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to beat them to make the playoffs, and if they're going to win in the playoffs, obviously.
Yeah.
Because, they got Brady after this next week.
That's going to be
And then they don't have any elite QBs on the schedule, really, besides Rodgers. I don't call Cousins elite. He's good. Wentz might be elite by the time he's rounded into shape by then. That's about the only other one they play.
Right.
So I'd like to see the defense dominate even someone as good as Rodgers. But the defense looks amazing, and I think the thing that's best about that is the front 7 and the pass rush. Those aren't the kind of things that slump.
Right.
You might scheme it. You might throw all sorts of quick releases and throw the running backs in the flat all the time and make it to where there's not a stat line with a bunch of sacks, but you're not going to move the ball that great. Mm-hmm. And what the Bears can do that's so absolutely wonderful with Mac and just about impossible to defeat is they can get to the quarterback without blitzing. They still blitz less than anybody in the league and lead the league in sacks, or second, I think, even after a bye.
That, to me, is one of the most amazing stats, that they're leading the league in sacks and blitzing the least.
So then you get all these plays where the offense has to keep help in, and it's 6 Bears defenders covering 3 receivers, or 7 Bears defenders covering 3 or 4, and they get it's a simple math.
Yep.
And because of Mac, they don't have to blitz very often. That's not easy to beat, even if you have elite talent. So that defense is going to keep them in games that you think they should lose, and they'll probably lose a couple because of the offense, in all honesty.
Yeah.
But I think they're on the track to the playoffs. The next couple, that run of games against the AFC East should tell us, I think, what we need to know by then.
Does Miami scare you at all?
Their defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
But it looks like Wake's not playing.
Ryan,
I'm thinking no Wake, no pass rush. No pass rush. They'll figure out who's open.
you don't. Ryan Tannehill doesn't scare you.
Definitely not. And not with at least 2 offensive linemen out. It's probably gonna. I feel like it could look a lot like the Seattle game, where you're kind of like, come on, offense, put them away. But the defense is playing so well that you know, even if the score gets close, you never really feel that worried. I definitely think the Bears are better.
Yeah. And Seattle, speaking of Seattle, has looked better against other teams.
Well, there's an elite quarterback that they beat, actually. No weapons at the time, but...
details.
No, I guess I don't know that much about Miami in a lot of ways, though. I mean, I know they have a decent running game, but Tannehill's so hot cold. I just have a hard time thinking he's going to get the kind of time he needs against this defense to beat them.
Isn't Dowell Loggins the Dolphins offensive coordinator?
When in doubt, pick the team with the most dominant unit if you don't have an elite quarterback involved in the game, and that's definitely the Bears' front seven.
Yeah. And I would pick the team that doesn't have Loggins as their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, that could help, too.
All right, elite QB. Can we just spend a minute on, you mentioned Drew Brees a few minutes ago as being maybe one of the top greats of all time. I was not aware how close he was to breaking the yardage records until this last week. I don't know where I was.
I knew he'd do it this year. I didn't know it was already.
I had no idea. But passing Manning, or Favre and Manning, is quite impressive. But at the same time, when I think of great QBs, Brees doesn't pop to mind right away. Is that my fault? Or
is it all of our fault? The collective football consciousness? We love Brees, but we don't really put him there. Is it because he's 5'10"?
Right.
I like how they lie about his height.
Yeah.
As if it matters at this point. I don't know why that is. I mean, he's been so good for so long.
Yeah.
They've had some terrible seasons, which you just don't get with elite QBs usually. Like, let's be honest, if Rodgers is healthy, Green Bay wins 9 or 10 games. Yes. Almost like a given.
Right.
But then you got these, like, Saint seasons where they're, like, 5-11 because they can't stop anybody. And then it's like, it's just got the stats because the defense stinks for 5 years. And it's Sean Payton's offense. But there is no Sean Payton offense without Brees. I do think... I don't want to be guilty of living just in the here and now, but I think it's been good to reevaluate his status or standing after all the records. How could you not put him in the top 5 or 10 at the very least after setting all the... He's going to have the TD one, too, with a fraction of Favre's interceptions.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, by any measure, he's way more efficient than most of the other greats. But it's also the era of the pass.
Yeah.
Which makes it really hard to compare to Montana or Elway or someone.
Yeah, and Marino. To me, when I was a kid growing up, Marino I always thought was the best quarterback I ever saw. But
and then how do you weigh Super Bowls? Whereas it's like that's his big problem or issue. Yeah. And is that really fair in a team game, though the QBs can make such an impact? I wonder how many times Drew Brees has thrown for, say, 400 yards with a 90 or above rating and still lost.
It's a good question.
Yeah, because I do think Marino gets sort of an unfair rap on that. He's a brutal analyst, though.
All those ex-players are.
Man, most of them are, yeah.
Like Witten? Have you listened to Witten on Monday Night Football? Oh, my goodness.
Pretty rough.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa!
That's Romo, right?
Yeah.
Who does that?
I just couldn't help thinking.
Here we go!
We got 2 former Cowboys immediately in the booth.
Here comes the GOAT! It's the GOAT!
When he's not dialed to, 300 in the excitement, he actually can predict plays and give you interesting insight.
Yeah, and that's
doesn't
give
you anything.
No, he doesn't. He just kind of stumbles over his words.
Sort of there.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would, if I thought about Brees, I would say top 10. But I don't know if I'd say top 5. Like, quarterbacks that I would say that I've seen. I'm not going to, go Unitas and, all those old school guys. But Rodgers, I would pick over him. Peyton Manning. Marino, but that could just be, the young,
See, it's hard for me to go
youth,
there because I wasn't old enough to, I think, analyze it right.
I would pick...
Same with Montana.
Right, yeah, well... Yeah, that was a whole team. Yeah. Montana and Brady to me are like that. Like how much was the quarterback and how much was the team? I know people want to call Brady the GOAT, but how would he be if he was on the Saints?
Stop and frame the discussion.
Yeah.
If you want most accomplished, it's Brady by a mile.
Oh yeah, no question.
Manning and Montana and Elway, right? At least in our lifetime.
Yeah. Elway had
if you want
probably the
most
best
physical
arm.
talent, it's probably Rogers then Marino.
Yes.
If you want, but Brees does nicely if you want a combination of talent and accomplishments. I mean, he is absurdly accurate.
Yeah, probably the most accurate I've ever seen.
Yeah. So
And
I don't
Brady
know.
probably the smartest I ever saw. But,
yeah, Rogers gets really high marks in both too.
But the most fun, and maybe this is because I've seen them play so often, but and I hate to say it, Favre and Rodgers have been the most fun to watch, objectively.
Some of the throws Rodgers has made over the years. The one to beat the Cowboys in the playoffs a couple years ago, rolling to his left.
Yes, I know that throw
Such
exactly.
an absurd throw.
Right on the sideline. I don't think people realize how hard that is for a righty to be running left, gun it, and yeah.
That window, I mean, he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They've really squandered his career.
Such a shame, isn't it?
It's become a bigger narrative the older he gets, and he's getting older, obviously, all the time, but he's not in his prime anymore, in all honesty.
I don't think so.
Not by the typical understanding of age and what it means to an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So really to only get one ring out of that guy's prime is...
It's unfortunate.
It's an indictment on the rest of the organization.
Yep, sure is. And somehow I will sleep at night.
Yep, me too.
All right, Mark. Well, thanks so much for talking Bears.
Anytime.
I appreciate it. Down here in the Lone Star State, it can be quite lonely, you know. Speaking of being down here, it seems like Cowboys fans are finally waking up to Dak Prescott maybe not being that good.
See, I told you a while back I thought they were going to be mediocre this year because I don't like their weapons.
You did.
And when Dak was good, he had better weapons. But I don't know what it means anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's this whole school of thought that's starting to come around to the idea that I think Barnwell wrote an article on it for ESPN about the systems are getting to be so good and so complex that with the right weapons, the QBs are actually almost interchangeable. Like, how good is Pat Mahomes?
That's interesting. Yeah.
How good would anybody be throwing to wide open Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce with Kareem Hunt running the ball and Andy Reid calling the plays? I mean, Alex Smith was the MVP after a month last year.
Yeah.
The idea that Barnwell's going for, I don't know if I believe it, but it'd be interesting to see if in the next few years teams do it. Say, forget signing these QBs to these astronomical deals. We're going to invest elsewhere in more players and just keep drafting a QB every 5 or 6 years and putting them in the right system. I don't know. I still think the talent probably matters to some degree. Mahomes can certainly make all the throws.
Think so, yeah.
But when you see some of the things that even just against the Bucks, some of those guys were so wide open. Even against a good defense, they'll be open. Mm-hmm. Against the Bucks, they were wide open. Right? It's like almost anyone in the league could make that throw if they can understand that defense. Yep. I mean, and the offense, and then what the coverage is. I mean,
more than a Brady or McGowan, my friend.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. And then you got Aaron Rodgers trying to like drag a archaic scheme into the playoffs by himself.
Literally by himself.
It's like, God forbid they get a real coach.
Yeah, keep McCarthy.
Yeah,
keep McCarthy.
We ought to send him the John Gruden gift basket that we're working on. I still can't believe we traded, man.
Yeah, and every time Gruden says something about gotta find a pass rush.
I'm sorry.
Like,
I know we're trying to end this, but I just had to bring that up because it's too funny.
No, that's fine.
We gotta find a pass rush. These guys don't rush the passer like they need to. I'm like, well, I don't know. Where could you get one?
He's getting $10 million a year. There's
another Gruden in the league. Maybe he can rip off that Gruden for a pass rusher.
That's a good idea. Hey, brother,
he's a multi-millionaire. Is John Gruden?
Yeah.
Guess that makes the joke on us.
One last thing. You got a World Series pick?
I guess I'll go really, really against the grain here and still pick the Red Sox.
That's who I would say.
I got to say, while you brought it up, I'm bored to tears by the playoffs so far. There's been watch 2 good games. They're totally uninteresting games so far. I don't know what it is, other than they're just not that competitive.
I have not been able to watch the pain of the Cubs collapsing the way they did. Well, and they didn't really collapse. It was really Milwaukee.
Milwaukee still hasn't lost in like 3.5 weeks or something.
It's insane. But still, the Cubs, their last 4 games, they scored 1 run in 3 of their last 4. But anyway,
I wonder
you're a Cardinals fan.
If the run differential cumulatively in these playoffs is abnormal.
I don't know.
I don't feel like there have been that many good games. The Braves-Dodgers had a couple good ones.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be Red Sox-Dodgers, and I think the Red Sox are going to.
I'm hoping for the Brewers. I think they've earned it.
I
more
think so too.
Than just the Dodgers back again. But
can they stay that hot though? I mean, just baseball.
The
would say
lineup
no.
is good enough, probably, but I can't imagine the starters keep this up.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I still look at their starting pitching every time I happen to catch a game. I'm like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
Maybe that's my fault, but the lineup's good. I can't imagine they keep it up.
I feel the same way. Anyway, so, that's a tangent from football and Bears. But
there we go.
Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast, the show. I appreciate it, and it looks like this one is going to work. Yeah. Yay!
All right. And
otherwise,
goodbye. And this time
28 minutes wasted. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we'll catch up in a couple more games down the road and reevaluate where the Bears.
Maybe after the New England game.
That sounds good. Yeah, let's do that. All right.
Cool. See you.
The Bears. The Bears.
The Tiger by William Blake. Tiger, tiger burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? Well, folks, thanks so much for listening, for streaming or downloading or however you listen to this. I appreciate it. And I hope you liked the new segment I did of reading a classic poem. I'm going to be doing that once every show for a couple reasons. One, I don't understand poetry, but I think I should. I think it would make me a better person, better artist, better listener, all those fun things. So, yeah, I hope you liked it. If not, maybe just fast forward through it next time. But I'm not going to be reading, any long page upon page upon page poem, but just something short, like a minute, maybe two long, something like that. And thank you again to Dr. Mark for joining me to talk Bears, where they are and where they may be headed this year. Still trying to stay grounded, but not only do the playoffs look more of a reasonable expectation, but maybe the division isn't as far-fetched of an idea as it was even a couple months ago. So thank you again for listening. Thanks for sharing, telling your friends. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Take care and talk to you next time.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.